Welcome everybody to our second episode of Go Inside the MOCs. This time we're going to do what I promised we would do in the last video, and that is explore some building techniques used in this MOC. First thing we're going to talk about is building a border. Now the very first question is, do you want to use a border at all? LEGO has used both an organic shape, such as in the medieval blacksmith, as well as a border type look in many of the Star Wars dioramas. I myself have used both, but I now favor a combination of the two, using a border so that the MOC is easy to transport and bring to places like Brick World Chicago, as well as an organic feeling on top of that to give the MOC some more interest and appeal. So let's take a look at how we can build a border. We're actually going to look at building two different types of borders here, one with both a rounded over edge as well as one with a nice square edge. So let's get to building. First thing we're going to start with is a base plate. Remember, if we are planning to make our MOC the organic type shape, we're going to want a border that's larger than our final MOC is going to be, so plan accordingly. The border we're going to build today is going to be 2 studs tall, and we're going to want it nice and flat on the very top level so we could potentially build a very organic shape. We don't need a lot of specialized pieces to build this border, but the first thing we're going to need are a bunch of these, what some people call step bricks, though I'll put their actual brick link description and element ID in the video right now. The number we're going to need is going to correspond, of course, to the size of our base. In this particular case, I'm using a 48 by 48 base plate, and these bricks will be used on 2 of the sides, but they won't go all the way to the edge. They'll in fact have to be one short of the edge for the next specialized piece we're going to use. The second specialized piece we're going to use is the inverted bracket. This particular piece is great because it will allow us to still put a row of tiles on the very top level of the border without having any studs showing. Do not use the regular bracket, it will not work for this purpose. It is important to note we're going to want our inverted bracket to be the same color we're planning to make the border. If you don't have a lot of inverted brackets, that's okay. The other version that I'm building of a border here with the rounded over corners does not use this piece. It doesn't matter so much what color anything else you use on the very base level is, but this will be important. Now we're going to add our inverted brackets to the shortest side of our border all the way to the edge. In this case, I'm using a 48 by 48 base plate, so it doesn't really matter which side I do so long as the opposite sides are both done with the inverted bracket. Now we're going to fill in the other 2 sides with our step piece so that we'll have a place to attach our border when we're ready to make it. Once we have all the step pieces attached, the next thing we're going to want to do is add a 2 plate thickness on our inverted bracket side and a 1 plate thickness over the top of our step piece so that the total thickness that we've already built up will be 3 plates or 1 brick tall. Doesn't matter here what color you use, these will all be covered anyway, so just grab a random bin like I did here and put the pieces on. I started putting my plates on the inverted bracket side first and then moved over to the step piece second to overlap in the corners to kind of add a little bit of rigidity. We're going to end up putting some large plates on top of this anyway, so it's probably not super critical that you follow this step, but it does help to make the pieces stack a little better and make the entire structure a little more rigid. Now that we've finished stacking our plates, we should be 3 plates tall all along the edge. This is the exact height of 1 brick, which is going to help us put on our large plates to cover the entire surface a lot easier. I would also note here that we are 3 plates tall, the border is 5 plates tall, so when we add our large plates to cover the entire surface, they will still be 1 plate below the border, allowing us to add tiles onto the top of the border to make a nice smooth surface if we want to do a nice organic shape. So now that I have the edges built up to the right height, I'm going to add large plates to cover the entire surface area at 4 plates high when we put these on. In order to add some rigidity underneath these plates, I'm going to add bricks. Note that if I do have a larger plate, say a 16 by 16, or really anything over 12 studs long, I probably want to add some sort of brick or something underneath the middle of the plate to add a little more rigidity and stop the flex. A rubber mallet like the one you see here can be useful for tamping down some of these large plates without having to stress and hurt your fingers. As you'll note here, I made a little mistake. One of my bricks is one stud too far over, and it's on top of the step piece. So I have to take that one off and use a smaller piece so that I don't run into this issue again. After I have that straightened out, let's go ahead and fill a good chunk of this up with some more of these large plates. My preferred brick is a 2x4 or 2x6 brick. You can see I put them on to overlap the edge of the plates so that the next plate that goes on doesn't need as many bricks to hold it in. Now that I have one large row of the big plates in, you can see up to the edge here that it is 4 plates tall, though my border will be 5 plates tall, so I can lay another layer of tiles on top here to make a nice smooth surface in order to build an organic looking base. I'll put the rest of the large plates on later, but let's start with the border here. Our border is going to come to a perfect mitered corner on the edge, and how we're going to do that is we're going to add one plate and one tile on each edge. The big and important part here is that we want to make sure we overlap our side with the step pieces, not the side with the inverted brackets, by one stud. That way, when we add both a plate and a tile to the side with the inverted brackets, it will be the exact same thickness as one stud. Okay, so let's continue that process around the entire edge to make a nice smooth border, and then we'll add some tiles around the top as well so that we can get that finished look. Let's enjoy a little music interlude while we snap some plates and bricks on top of this border. Our second border demonstration, and this one is going to be similar to the first with a couple of exceptions. First, it's not going to use any inverted brackets, so if you don't have enough inverted brackets, this might be a better choice. And second, instead of having a nice square corner, it's going to have a much more interesting rounded corner. Much like our last border, we're going to start this one with the step piece. Again, the brick link information and the element ID are in the video now. As we did with our first border, the first step is going to be to attach either our inverted brackets or our step pieces. This time, since we don't have any inverted brackets, we're going to start the step piece right at the edge of the base plate. Here we go, attaching some bricks. Much like our last border, we're going to put the step pieces on opposite sides of the base plate, but don't put anything on the other two sides of the base plate, the adjacent sides. We'll take care of those in a minute. Now that we've added our step pieces to two of the sides, we're going to add a layer of plates on top of them to reach the thickness we want. Again, that being 3 plates, so we only need to add one layer on top of our step pieces. I'm also going to add a layer of bricks on the back side of the step pieces in one stud in order to reinforce the strength. It's probably not necessary again, but better safe than sorry. Now this border is going to use bricks on their side, so studs not on top, along each of the shorter sides. Since I'm making this one a square, they're going to be the same length. But on the sides that do not have the step pieces, we're going to add a curved brick and then a number of other bricks behind it in order to create the border. This means I'm going to overlay a plate one stud past the edge of the base plate to give us a place to attach the very bottom of our border. You can see here that I'm counting the number of studs from the edge to where the overlap plate sits. That's because in order to achieve this look, we need to have an even number of studs between the edge of the base plate and where we're going to connect it in order to achieve a studs not on top look. Here I'm getting ready to build up the overlaid portion so that it can have a nice smooth finish with the rest of our border. The important part to note here is that when I get ready to put my studs not on top pieces in order to connect the very bottom of the border to the edge here, I am going to need to have 2 plates thick at the bottom so that my stud not on top piece can be a total of 5 plates tall when attached. Here I've put a 1x1 plate on the bottom of my snot brick and I've put it in place. I'm doing this on all 4 corners where we're going to be attaching the border to the center area of the MOC. I'm going to build up the rest of the sides to be 3 plates tall. Since 3 plates happens to be 1 brick, I'm simply going to use bricks on this part of the build. While I'm using bricks on most of the border, I am going to use plates where the middle section attaches to the base plate just to reinforce it a little bit more. So I'll throw down those plates and then we can move on. Now it's time to build the curved element that's going to form the edge of our border. In order to do this, we're going to use the piece that we have up on the video right now, the sloped curve 2x1 by 1/3 with recessed stud, element 6091. We are going to need 2 for each corner, which means we're going to need 8 of them. I'm going to place 1 curved slope on the stud on each corner. Of course, the second curved slope, which goes above it, I won't be able to attach until I have some border and some tile attached at each corner. So let's do that now. Now that we've got the corner attached, we're going to add the siding bricks, the snot bricks, from one corner to the middle. Pretty easy here. All I'm going to do is take some of these 1x2x5 columns and attach them between the curved edge and the middle portion. The number of studs here, again, should have been an even number, so I should be able to use a multiple of 5 plates per 2 studs to get the right length. In this particular case, I need 3 of those columns and 1 1x2 brick in order to fill the entire gap. Okay, now that one of the 4 sides has been completed, I'll repeat the process for the rest and fill in the rest of the plates as well. Here we go, let's enjoy another musical interlude as we build at super speed. And here we have it, our second curved slope base. Now you can see the corners here as I show it off. This particular base will be used by myself and my daughter as we build a little collaboration for Brick World Chicago.